Okay, what you all are doing will be the last time we ever do this, but this is great footage. I'm going to use it for teaching. Okay, Jared, go ahead and give that instruction on the pinch first before we have to switch it out.
Okay. All right, good morning, everybody. So for the pinch collar, just the ins and outs, we want to go through the details of it so you understand it, how to properly take it on and off, the do's and don'ts, all that, right? So
First of all, when he does that,
grabbing one of these spare ones. So it gets its name the pinch collar because we pinch it to take it on and off. It doesn't pinch the dog. Okay? But these are one of the best pieces of equipment we can use when used correctly. Because as we saw, like on these flat collars, how they're just pulling everywhere, right? It's creating flat pressure on their trachea, which can actually cause permanent damage down the road. And so by using this, one, when used correctly, the line is relaxed and loose. However, even when the line does go tight, whether we're giving a pop release correction or the dog's making it tight themselves, these round smooth points distribute it equally around the neck so it doesn't create flat pressure. Does that make sense? So it protects the trachea. So also with these, it has a chain. Some of these have a swivel on the outside ring and some just have another ring, depending on which one. They're both made by the same people. I don't know if it's a manufacturing thing or what, but as long as we are connecting to the outside ring or the swivel, depending on what's available, that's what we're gonna hook our leash up to, okay? So when I do take it on and off, I wanna make sure that this chain is nice and straight. When we go to put it on, if it's twisted, it can inhibit your pop release correction. Does that make sense? So we make sure the chain's nice and straight. I normally come underneath, and that way I can pop it on top with the dog, and then I can rotate it around from there. As I make my way around, where it gets its name, the pinch collar, the pinching part, right, is to take it on and off. So here I'm gonna pinch to the tops and put those two ends through, and that's all it is. And when I go to take it apart, I normally put one finger behind, and I put my thumb right there, and I just push them together, and I can pull them apart. Okay? I can do this anywhere on the collar, taking it on and off. Hi there. Taking it on and off, and to simply increase or decrease the size, you add or remove links. Okay? And so taking it on and off, you're familiar with these.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So there's that. Yeah. Just popping it on and off. I pinch there, pop it right through. And I put my finger behind, pop through just like that. Okay? Pinch in the top there, pop right through. Then I put my finger right behind, push through right there, okay? All right. Okay, so same thing here. So I'm gonna go and push behind and push down, it pops through, and then I pinch the top there, and I pop those ends through, just like that. Does that all make sense? Just like that, popping right through, and then I put my finger behind, and I push down. Just like that. Those are just extras for right now. Yep, as he grows. To increase or decrease the size, I simply am just adding or removing links. So sometimes if one gets stepped on, it can get bent, or as he grows, we want to increase the size.
So it just slides together.
Alrighty.
We do have that, so whatever is going to be best for you guys. So, okay. So I took my mic off because if we're both talking, it ruins it. I got what I needed, but do you want to maybe do this for Nadoy?
Sure.
Do you want to be some of the main instructor then, and I'll
Sure.
assist you?
That's fine.
So you can do that? Okay, so I took my mic off, it's charging in case that one starts to go down.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds good. Okay, so one of the things I want to add as well, does anybody have questions on the pinch collar, prong collar so far? Everybody's good? Okay. So this is an excellent piece of equipment when used correctly. Okay. That being said, this isn't an all-day collar. So as a rule of thumb, if the leash is on, this is on. But I would not leave this on unsupervised or while playing with another dog, situations like that. Okay, so as a rule of thumb, if the leash is on, this is on. Okay? Every time this when these are on, every time the leash goes tight, you're making pressure whether you intend to or not, okay? And so it's really important from what you're going to learn today, because subconsciously a lot of the time we feel that constant tension. That means we have control of keeping the dog there, keeping them in position. Tension means control. And so today it's going to be the opposite. Okay? When the line is relaxed, there's no expectation. So right now we're just going to be teaching, like she showed, respecting the end of the line. Okay? We're going to set a boundary. So whether it's 2 feet, 6 feet, doesn't matter. The whole point is when they feel the end of the line, we want them to back off and respect that boundary. And if the self-correction is not enough just from them pulling into it.
Can I switch him to the pinch?
Yeah, absolutely. The self-correction of them doing themselves, if that's not enough, that's where we're adding that pop release correction. Okay? So the whole point of a boundary and a correction, it's a strong enough correction that they respect it, understand it, and don't want another. Okay? And so she just switched it over to the pinch collar, right? And when we introduce this, we're going to be starting it, but we're going to try to be like a little bungee, okay? Because they're used to just setting into a flat collar, right? And so we don't want them not realizing that it's switched over, just setting into a new collar and then over correcting, okay? Because when they get a correction, we want it to be strong enough they respect it, understand it, and don't want another. We don't want it to overwhelm. Does that make sense? Because a dog can't think in a panic. Does that all make sense? Are there any questions on that so far? No? Okay. So, excuse me. So, from here, in a moment, we're just going to start making our way around to introduce it. But even like right now, this is what everybody's going to be doing. If you have 5-6 foot leash from here, all you're going to do, recently I've been calling it the baseball bat grip, but you're going to grip it with 2 hands and there's no space of line in between. Okay, so we're not looking like this.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Baseball bat grip.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I was trying to put it in words for writing. I was like, baseball, yeah. So anyways, baseball bat grip. Okay.
I'm going to help you.
Yep, so we're just going to switch that over. Well, once we're on a pinch, just like this gentleman here, baseball bat grip, just having it tight to your body, like your diaphragm area, but you're just a pull. So the only expectation right now for him is to respect the end of the line and to respect your space. So if he came in and started jumping on you, I would want you to slide down that line and just pop out to the side and say off. Okay? So everything we're doing, setting boundaries, it's rules, boundaries, and discipline. It's pack order and leadership. Genetically, these dogs are designed to live in a hierarchical structure as a pack animal. Okay? So if we don't learn how to disagree and assert ourselves in ways another dog would, because if they're jumping all over a more dominant dog and they've had enough of it, they're going to growl and nip to set the boundary. They're going to assert themselves and own their space. Does that make sense? So right now, we're just teaching you how to talk dog. It's never out of frustration. It's never out of anger. It's just simply saying, boom, I don't allow this in my space. And because they respect and understand the correction, they're not going to jump on you or mouth you or pull into the line because they don't want the correction they know they would get if they did it again. Is that all making sense? Are there any questions on that so far? No? Okay. So, she's already making her way around. But as you can see, once they're on the pinch where it's going to be a pull, start to establish respect on leash. If they're not pulling and they're being respectful in your space, just let them be. There's no expectation to lay down right now or sit. They can sniff, they can wander around that radius that you're giving them with whatever distance of leash that is, but they're free to move about. They just need to respect the end of the line and respect your space. Does that make sense? Good? Okay. So, who is not on a pinch yet? What? I'm going to switch her on over. Hi, sweetie. I'm going to go and borrow your leash. Thank you. Oh, hello.
The ones that are sitting still
Okay.
are on.
Very sweet. Okay. So, even from here, like I mentioned, so even right about there, like maybe 4 feet or so, I'm just gripping it, baseball bat grip, and I'm just to pull. She's totally free to sniff my boots, and investigate, like using her nose, that's the social instinct of the dog to discover and see new things, right? So the fact that she's going right in, using her nose, that's totally fine. But if she were to jump up, I'm going to correct sideways, a little pop release to tell her off. And if she goes to pull into the line, like right there, little pop, little pop, little pop. So right, each time she goes to pull, I'm popping a little bit harder. Okay? Because the whole point is it has to be a strong enough correction that she respects it and doesn't want another. Does that make sense? So if she were to set in, I give a little pop, and she just goes to pull again, right? So a little pop, and the line is relaxed, okay? But if she goes to pull again, I'm going to deliver another little pop. But with each one, if I don't bring a strong enough correction that she respects, she's going to go right back into pulling, okay? So even there, the line's relaxed. She went to the very end, felt the resistance, and then stopped. If she goes to pull, that's where the pop comes. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
I do have a question about prong collars. So
yeah.
This part, is it always in the back, or is it in the front, or does it matter?
So the chain portion?
Yeah.
I'm going to typically, when I'm walking with the dog, I'm going to try to have it highest up on the neck, but the chain is towards the top. Okay. When we go to do the down command, for example, I'm going to rotate it around so the chain is down on the bottom side. Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to hand this to you. We're going to give her about 4 feet of line, just like that. We're going to the baseball grip, and we're just going to be a pull from here. Okay. Sound good? Sounds good. Okay. Of course. Are there any questions on this so far? A lot different than how it looked about 15, 20 minutes ago, huh? Yeah. So, good, and even there, good. So even from there, so see how he's just holding into tension right there, okay? So I want you to give him about 1 inch of line just to take out the slack. But if he were to immediately move and take up that slack that you gave him to make tension again, give a pop, okay? The next thing we're going to be doing is adding in like the walking portion, okay? So the whole point of getting the dog to move and actively check in and follow us, okay? Dogs walk in 3 mindsets. It's hunting mode, tracking mode, and migration mode. Tracking mode's obvious, just think like a bloodhound, nose on the scent, going somewhere. And then hunting mode's like ears forward, tail up, on the hunt, and processing everything out. Migration mode is ears back, body relaxed, tail set relaxed, just moving along. And you might leave here today and see someone walking on the sidewalk, and you look at their dog, you're like, oh, that's a migration mode, it's relaxed. But that dog's out 6 feet in front, pulling the owner around. Okay, so who do you think's leading that pack? Okay, so the positioning is really important here. So what we're going to be starting to teach them now is we'll start each dog. But when we walk out, we're going to wait for the dog to mentally disengage and look away from us, to look at something out in front, okay? We're going to let the dog go out in front. And same with how you guys are right now, that baseball grip, about 5 feet of line. We're going to let him go out in front, little pop, and then we're going to turn 180 and go the other way. We might invite the dog to give a little bit of invitation to show him what we're wanting, but in essence, the correction is out front and we're going the other way. So what they're going to start to learn is if I start to stay back and keep paying attention to where I am, they don't end up out in front where that correction is. Does that make sense? Okay. So as we start to get those corrections, you'll see the dog is starting to check in more to where then when we go to turn, they don't get a correction at all because they see we're going the other way and they're choosing to turn and continue to follow. Does that make sense? And so as they start to check in and figure out what we're asking of them, they naturally start to drop back. Whether they are out or back, they don't have to be perfect in this pocket on day one. I just want them back and following. So whether they're 3 feet out, 3 feet back, I don't care about that today. Okay? This is man-made obedience, so we have to lay a foundation and help them succeed before we add or expect the final product. Does that make sense? Is there anything you wanted to add?
No, but you might just stand that way so you're facing the camera because you're still facing the whole group.
Okay. Well, I think if you're good, then if there's nothing you want to add, we'll get right into the walks. Okay. So, do you want me to start with Macy? Okay. All right. I'm actually going to trade you real quick just because I'm picky. There we go. Okay. So, like I mentioned, we're just going right to baseball bat grip, about 5 feet of line, off. Okay, so I'm waiting for the pup to look away. Come on, come on. And if she's not looking away and she's still checking in pretty good, I'm just gonna keep walking, or I even might go to do a left. Come on. Hey, come on. Off. Actually, I'm gonna rotate this chain around the back of her head too. Off, off, off. So each time she goes to mouth the line, I'm giving a little pop there. Off to disagree. Off. Off. Okay, so I wait for her to go ahead. Come on, relax, come on. So notice too, I'm being a bungee right there. Come on. Come on. So here, if they start to stay too far back, I'm gonna invite and I'm gonna walk strong, but I'm not gonna pull, no. But I'm not gonna pull the dog up near me, okay? I wait for him to go out in front, little pop, come on. Off. Okay, and even there, how she's checking in to where she doesn't get out in front as I'm running out of space. That's why I started to incorporate a left. And right here, she's checking in and paying attention, nice. Off, off. And here I'm gonna go to share calm affection, off, off. So if I can have a moment, because right there, when I started to stop, off. When I came to a stop, it was because she was right there in the pocket, looking at me really nice, paying attention, off. And now when I come to a stop, if she goes to bite the line, I'm telling her off, but if she goes to bite it anyway, I give a pop to disagree, okay? So I want her to stop biting the line because she respects the correction she knows she'll get if she goes to bite it. Does that make sense? And so here we had like a nice moment. She was paying attention. If I can start to share calm affection there and make a nice moment in my space, I'm going to take those opportunities and build on it. Build on it. So correction's out there, praise is here. Does that make sense? Okay. And so it's really important as well when I go to share affection. Let this go on by. It's really important though when I go to share affection, I'm calm and I'm not having conversation. When we say good boy or good girl and we see them perk up, right? They're not thinking to themselves, I'm a good boy or I'm a good girl. All I did was stimulate the brain and create excitement. And excitement's not inherently wrong, but we don't want it everywhere. We don't necessarily want it on leash when we're going out and about. We don't necessarily want it when we come through the door when we get home, right? It's appropriate for play and other situations, but it's very commonly a human perceptions. We see excitement and we see it as happiness when it's just excitement. And then we have conversation and share affection in an excited state. So every time we share affection, we're praising the state of mind that they're in. We're saying, this is how I want you to be. Act like this and you'll get more praise from me. Okay? So whether it's an excited state, whether it's fear, everything good? Okay. But either way, I'm not going to, if a dog is scared, for example, it's human instinct normally to comfort and console. And we're actually magnifying that mindset and making it worse. Does that make sense? And so in these moments, if I can, especially with these black lab puppies, with excitable and mouthy and everything, if I can start to build off, good. But if I can start to build and share calm affection off, so I have my hand on him, and it's calm like a massage, but I'm not having conversation, and I'm making a point not to pet near her face right now, because we see the urge to mouth, right? It's very natural, it's social, but it's disrespectful to do with the pack leader. Does that make sense? Especially while I'm trying to share affection with them. So even while I'm sharing affection, it's that little pop off to disagree, and she was staying nice and calm. But that way I can actually build on a nice moment in my space, sharing calm affection while they continue to stay calm. Does that make sense? Okay. So from here, I'm going to go up and down a couple more, once or two more times. Off.
There you go. See how she's starting to watch it?
One.
Go the other way. Continue. Correct.
Okay. So whether they're on the right or the left doesn't matter right now. But the whole point is I'm waiting for her. See how she's dropped back? She's not out in front. She's not above making a mistake again. But how she's staying back and paying attention to where I'm going. Is that making sense? Good? Okay. I'm gonna have you come in now. Okay. So do you want to switch it back over to your leash? Off.
Yeah, I can.
Off. See in here. So if she goes to jump up, jumping on you without invitation is disrespectful. So if she goes to jump up, she's already wrong. I correct off. And if she were to jump up again, I'm going to do the same correction. And I repeat off each time. Does that make sense? Okay. So you can go ahead and switch her on over. There we go. And if she goes to bite the line, just be off, and it's a little pop to disagree. Okay? All right. And if you just want to go around them here, we're just going to walk up and down.
So put her on 1 1/4 3 times a day. Okay.
Good. See how she's staying behind? She's paying attention. It's not that she's above making another mistake if there's another distraction or anything like that, but she's starting to learn the whole concept of checking in and following. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Starts to gain too much control about it. Okay. If she goes through such a growth spurt that.
And even when you go to make that turn, if they're not, you go start to make that turn. If we're not doing like that pop, step out in front, then I'd be like, come on, and we're going, but I'm walking anyway. So if she's not responsive to the invitation, she's going to self-correct there. Does that make sense? Okay. And then from here, if you just wanted to step back over.
I'll just go out there.
Who all hasn't walked with their dog yet? 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right. I'll go and I'll start with this one. I'm going to switch over to my leash for a moment. I'm just picky. Off. There we go. Off. Okay. So same thing. As I begin to walk, about 5 or 6 feet, baseball bat grip. And so here, I'm going to start to go. Come on. And so if they're lagging like this, I'm just going to walk strong. I wait for them to go out in front. Come on. Notice I'm being very light like a bungee. I don't want them to hit the end and be too overwhelmed. Hey, come on. Wait for them to go out in front. Hey, come on. Here we go. Off. Come on. Come on. So there, I'm just going to walk strong. I wouldn't pop to disagree with that right now. I'm just waiting for him to go out in front. Come on. Come on. And notice the going to mouth the line right after the pop is a little bit of protest. Come on. As a general rule in this session, I'm not really worried about the dog biting the line. But if it becomes excessive like it did with the lab, that's where I'm going to start to disagree with it. Come on. There we go. Come on. Come on. Come on. You always starting to check back and see. Come on. Come on. So whether he's on the right or the left doesn't matter right now. Come on. Come on. See in there, so you see how he's starting to check in, but he's still further than I want. So I'm just waiting for him to look away to do that step back. Come on. So see how he's in the position there? He was looking at me really nice. That's a moment where I'm going to go to share calm affection. See how he's starting to figure it out? He's actively checking in. I don't expect him to be locked in. I just want him actively checking in and following. And now that he's in position and he's checking in really nicely, that's where I'm going to start to incorporate my lefts a little bit, doing a left turn instead of setting up that step back. Okay? So once we have them dropping back where they're actively checking in and the positioning is really nice, whether it's further back or right in the pocket, that's when I'm going to start to incorporate lefts more often. Lefts as a general rule are always going to be better. It's better for the dog to slow down, drop back, pay attention and respect your space. Off. If he goes to jump again, I'm going to correct and disagree. But it's better for a dog to slow down and pay attention and respect your space than to speed up on a right turn. Does that make sense? And if they don't speed up, then you're just pulling them along. And that can start to turn into compounded pressure and unclear pressure. We want them to understand the correction, how to turn it off. So as a general rule, lefts are going to be more clear, better for the dog's mindset, so on and so forth. Does that make sense?
You're starting them on the left side.
Yes. Yes. So if you are on a right side, then it's going to be an inboard turn. Whatever. Yep. And so just keep in mind there, if he's laying down, go ahead and give him about an inch more line. Yes, give him an inch more. So there's no tension at all. Okay? Come on, bud. So I invite because he wasn't looking, but I'm walking either way. There we go. Okay, so from here, like I mentioned, you're going to go about 4 or 5 feet, baseball bat grip. And we're going to step around and just start to walk. Okay. So as he's looking away, let him go out in front, pop at the end, and then turn and go the other way. Good. Walk strong. Good. And if you start to run out of driveway and he's still in the space, that's where I'd slide down the line and start to make a left. And if he's crowding, that's where I can give a little tap straight back.
Okay.
Good. So I'll use this one as so here, if we're being a pole, and I'm walking, and now I'm running out of space, but the positioning is really nice, you can slide down your leash like that with your left. So as you start your turn, if he's crowding you like he did, you can tap straight back to give him direction on where you want him to go as you continue to turn.
Okay.
Okay? Off. If he goes to bite the line, just be like off and give a little pop if he goes to bite it. And then pop the line next time he goes to grab it. They're going. No, that's fine. You could have let him go out and pop and then turn right 180 to walk back. And you can shorten your line a little bit. That looks like a 7 or an 8 foot line.
You might have let him chew the other one.
I see. Okay. As long as you didn't eat it.
No, it's just afraid.
Is this all making sense though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys make it look so smooth.
Well, we do this for a living.
Okay, so if he's eating 5 cups total a day.
Good. They're a little pop and one walk strong.
Okay, you're giving him
Good. Nice.
2.5 cups. So
Little pop. Go the other way. Good. Off. Little pop. So when it's in his mouth, go and pop it with the leash. You don't have to grab.
Okay. We told him a few times, so now he should know. Yeah.
Yes. Off. Now, if you want, I'll have you go and head back over to your vehicle.
Okay.
Then when you come to a stop, there is no expectation to follow. So we're just back to respect on leash and respect in my space.
Okay.
Okay? Good. All right. Very nice. Switch over to my leash. Hi. Cut. There we go. Hi, little one. Okay. So same thing. I'm going to start to walk. Come on. In here, right? Come on.
you can't do this.
Come on.
No, you cannot steer him anymore.
Good. Good. So.
You've got to address with everybody. They absolutely cannot steer their dog.
Okay. Okay. So 2 notes then. So for this pup, right? If we have a lot of these puppies, right? They're going out in front and they're pulling. Okay. So that's why we're doing these step back corrections. So if you have a dog that's lagging and doesn't want to follow, then it's more about getting the dog's brain to move forward. So in that moment when I start to walk and she starts to lag, so right there is nice. So I'll go back to a step back. Come on. But here if she's lagging a little bit, right? If I have a moment where she's paying attention and following, hey, hi. So if I have a moment where she's paying attention and following, she's not resisting, I'll squat down and make a nice moment because it's about the brain moving forward and I make calm affection at my side. Does that make sense? Okay. One thing she was wanting to add, like I mentioned, every time this collar, when it goes tight, you're making pressure whether you intend to or not. So clear pressure is not wrong. It's rules, boundaries, and discipline. Unclear pressure is what can ruin your relationship and it's abusive to the dog. Okay? So every time this line goes tight, I want to make sure that they're learning what I want them to learn. Rules, boundaries, and discipline. They understand the correction and how to avoid it. But if I'm just pulling the dog around, steering the dog, there's no way for the dog to succeed there. There's no way for them to avoid that correction and please you. Does that make sense? And so unclear pressure, if they don't know how to avoid the correction, they don't understand it, they'll start to avoid you because you're the source of it. Does that make sense? So that's what will chip away at the trust in your relationship. Okay? And so with this one, is that all making sense? So like if your dog's ever out of position, for example, I would never pull her back over to me. I'm going to pop and disagree for respect on leash. But if I want her next to me, I would either invite in or I would just step over next to her, right? Or if I wanted her over here, I would never pull her over, okay? Because she didn't know there's an expectation to be there. She doesn't know how to avoid that correction. It's all unclear and unfair. Is that all making sense? Good? Okay. So I'm going to start to walk with this one. What was her name? Annie. Okay. Come on. Come on. Come on. So there, a little bit of lag and resistance. I'm inviting. But there, her brain's moving forward. Hey. Right now, she's wanting to go back to you for a little bit of security. When I do hand her back to you, it'll be important that we don't share affection in that moment. Okay? So, under stress, we don't want the dog to be sucking up to the human for safety. So we want the dog to learn that there's safety in the structure and the leadership that we provide, but not in the human itself. Does that make sense? I feel like it just like Okay, so for example, if I have a dog that's worried and wanting to go back to the owner, okay, if stress comes and she goes to the owner, because safety and survival is her greatest instinct, is number one. So if she is stressed and she gets to the owner and we praise that and magnify it, the dog learns like, oh, I survived because of them, right? So compounded and compounded, that snowball effect, down the road, we've had extreme cases where the dog is stressed and is climbing the owner for safety, or whether it's hiding underneath something or whatever it is, the avoidance. But in those instances, it's important that they learn that that doesn't work and they're fine. So like in this instance, if she was just wanting to constantly pull to get to him for safety, I'd be consistently just setting the line to disagree. So she's going to be more concerned with my boundary than getting back to him. And she's going to learn that she survived. And she was fine. She didn't have to go to him for safety. She was fine right here. Does that make sense? Okay. So is it clicking now, or do I need to expand on it?
Like she wants him for comfort, but you're teaching her that being on the leash, respecting the boundary, that's where she's fine. It doesn't have to be with him.
Exactly. To be safe. Does that make sense? There's safety in the structure that we provide. Okay? All right. So I'm going to, hey, come on. So we go and start to walk. So as she starts to go out in front, come on. Come on. Come on. So I'm inviting and walking. As soon as she starts to go forward, hi. So I don't know how well you could see that, but giving the step back and a little pop, right? So when she turned, it wasn't some of these other puppies, they feel it and they go right back to out front now that we're going the other way. She's lagging and is a little bit resisting the end of the line. So I'm inviting and walking slow, but we have to walk. She has to learn that that can't work. Off.
Can you also address that these pinch collars are a little looser than normal to be more forgiving? Is that
Yes. When we do introduce the pinch collar, we have it on a little bit looser than we normally would. It's going to make it more forgiving for them and you in your learning curve. Okay? But yes, but in that moment when she was walking, she was resisting, but I was slowly walking. She has to follow, and I'm inviting to help her along. But she finally chose to follow, no tension. That was when I immediately squat down, make a nice moment here. Okay? Come on. Come on. Come on. There, so brain moving forward. Hi. Is that making sense? So even when I start to walk, I invite and she's not immediately going. I keep walking. So if we say walk strong, we don't mean walk fast. We mean walk your pace with purpose. Okay? Like you're going either way. So when you invite and they don't follow, they're going to self-correct. You're not going to pull them. You just don't let the line slip and walk strong and they'll self-correct. But as soon as she starts to move, her brain's moving forward, I praise that and make a nice moment at my side.
The one thing I will say is if you guys are walking and you normally walk really fast, slow it down during this learning phase. Just got to be more calm for their brains to process and follow. If you're walking too fast, everything is moving faster and their brain has to get comfortable. And so you just got to calm it down and maybe slow down. If you're just, always got a fast pace for everything, we've got to slow down for the dog's learning curve and where they're at in their mindset right now. So just keep that in mind as well.
Well, yeah, and the one thing I like to call it just puppy brain. So it's like we're teaching a new foundation. They can be more easily overwhelmed because they can't process as quickly because they need to mentally mature. So as long as we're going slow enough for them, this is fair. You can see they're starting to understand the expectation and it's all clear. But we can definitely move too fast and then overwhelm the dog. Does that make sense? Okay, so even there, I'm not moving. There's no expectation to follow. She can freely roam in this radius. But then with her squatting down, because that's an inviting body language, she was wanting to go over there, but I still give a light pop to disagree when she pulls. Hi, little one. She is very sweet. All right, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start to walk. Come on. Come on. Hi. So that was better. Notice that time she actually started to follow before she self-corrected. Hey, come on. And even if, so here, if she packs the leash right now, that's totally fine if she's moving forward and following along with me. Now that we're stopped, I'll go and clear it off. And so if she goes to mouth it, if I'm not popping to disagree with the leash, I use my forefingers and my thumb over the snout, and I just curl the lips in on her teeth, and just light pressure. She goes to release, I pull the leash out. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna go and bring her back over to you. Come on. Hi. Okay. So I'm gonna go and hand her to you here. Off. And if she goes to pull, be ready to pop. Oh, and we can switch over to your leash if you'd like, now that she's back with you. There we go. Okay, so you're gonna go and hold about 4 or 5 feet of line there, baseball bat grip, and we're gonna go and start to walk. Good. Good. And for right now, and so go ahead and keep the same amount of line. So right there, give her about another foot of leash, and then hold it and don't let it slide through your hands. I think as you're maneuvering, you're taking up a little bit at a time. Good. And if she packs the leash, it doesn't bother me right now. She's moving along. She's not going out in front. She's just trucking along. Good. Good. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. If you want, I'll go ahead and have you head back over to your spot. And once you stop moving, it's just back to being a pole. So she can wander around, but she still needs to respect the inline and respect my space. Yeah. Are there any questions on anything at all? Barking and whining? Yeah. So
repeat the question.
Yeah, so barking and whining in the house, right? Saying no bark and it's not resulting in anything, right?
You all hear him?
Everybody hear me okay? Yeah, so so is it just in general, or is it a particular instance, like barking at the window, wanting to go outside, or?
He just in the house, he'll be sitting on the couch and all of a sudden barking at me.
Okay.
Oh, that's demanding.
Yeah, like he's talking.
Oh, so he's barking at you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, it's just being demanding. He wants something from you, whether it's affection, wanting to go outside, dinner, whatever it is, but he's being demanding for it. Okay? And so in a situation like that, have any of you watched Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer? Like you saw like his touch correction. She does it all the time. Yeah, Chaos to Calm in her videos as well, but it's that touch release correction. Okay? So like I talked about, everything in the dog world, giving a boundary, the dog respects, understands as one another. Whether it is the leash and pinch, whether it's using a touch, or whether it's using other forms of equipment, all of it is the same fundamentally. You're setting a boundary that they respect, so they're not going to do it again because they don't want another correction. Is that making sense? So like when he goes to bark, I would say nothing, go in, touch in like the rib area, and it's a pop release. And I say quiet, off, whatever word. Pick a word and stick to it.
I've done that a couple times, but then it's almost like he gets a zoomy.
It becomes a game, right? So the whole point with a touch correction, if any of you are also dealing with that as well, is we have to be believable in our correction. So the whole point, if I go to touch and disagree, and I touch in the side, one, I stay there, so I correct. I might bring my hand back up out of reach so they don't mouth, but if they go to mouth, I'm gonna correct again. But I go to correct and I hold it, off, quiet, whatever word you wanna use. Cesar Millan did this sound, and when he was real popular, everybody thought it had some like magical power to it, and it's just a sound. It's the correction that gives your command power. Because when you say no bark, there's no correction there, right? Dogs will never comply to avoid your command. They'll comply to avoid the correction they know they'll get if they don't comply to the command. Does that make sense? So the whole point when I go to disagree and I say off, I personally use off. That's my general disagreement. Don't jump on me, leave that alone, no bark, whatever. But when I say off, it's not the specialness of the word. It's because each time I go to disagree, if they blow me off to do it anyway, or they don't respect the warning, I'm going to back it up and correct the disagree, whether it's popping with the leash, whether it's using a touch in the body. Okay? So in that moment he goes to bark, he's already wrong. Or even if if it was, say, like territorial, like someone at the door, the initial bark's not wrong, but I would say quiet, off, whatever word you want. But then if he barks again, he's already wrong. I say nothing, go in, touch, and I stay there, off. Now I'm going to read his expression there. Did he respect the boundary and wait? Did his whole demeanor immediately calm? Or does it now become incited like it's playtime or the catch me game or whatever? And if it's not calm and respect and he didn't take my correction to be believable, that's where I'm going to step in. I might even take another step forward and correct a little bit harder than the last, but my tone remains calm. I can never be frustrated or angry in my tone. Dogs don't understand our emotion of frustration, and so it's projected and received as instability. Okay? Some of these really outgoing dogs, like these labs, if we're not believable and we're frustrated in our tone, they'll see it as not believable and they'll continue to be a game and you'll become increasingly frustrated. With some of these softer pups, like even this lab here, or I think this is Gem, the golden, but with a softer pup, if I'm angry at my correction, she might respect the boundary, but now she's going to get away from me a little bit because she doesn't trust what I'm projecting. Does that make sense? So I step in to correct, off. He doesn't care. It's more of a game. Another step, boom, off. And I hold my position. I don't back up. I don't turn away. I correct to disagree, and I hold it. Does that make sense? So our body language is very important in all this. We want to be believable. If we're passive, we want to be very black and white in our disagreement. And if we're passive or hectic in our body language, it makes it unclear for the dog. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? That was a little bit of a rabbit hole, but it's all about context, right? And so it's the same thing, whether they're jumping on you, whether it's barking at you, whatever, I'm going to correct to disagree. And if you're struggling with the touch correction, you could even just have, as long as you're there and can supervise it, having the leash and pinch on them. So if they have the pinch, even if it's like a 1 foot tag line that they just drag around, so they're not dragging a 6 foot line and getting tangled on stuff, and they're not necessarily just getting tangled or laying down to chew on it, right? But having a short tag line, it's easy for you to grab. He goes to bark, calmly grab the end of it, pop out to the side, off, quiet, whatever word you want. But the touch correction is an excellent tool when used correctly, but because you always have it with you. You always have your body. You always have a capability of correcting. The leash and pinch is another tool that gives you a lot of success and makes it a little bit easier when used correctly. But now we're dependent on, is it on? What leash length do we have? All that. But either way, they're both fundamentally the same correction. Does that make sense? Okay. Does that answer your question? Okay. Are there any other questions?
And then as they grow, you're
Yeah. So our questions like, do we increase the size of the pinch collar? And so yes, as they grow, we're going to be sending you home with extra links to add to it. But as an idea of what's too tight, what's too loose. Right now, they're all on the looser side because this is an introduction. But the idea is so we'll leave it how it is right now. But as he grows, if it's to the point where it feels like it's snug around his neck, when there's no tension in the leash, that's when we need to add a link. Because the whole point is we want it to be loose and relaxed, just free weight, no tension, when there's no tension in the leash. However, we don't want to have so many links that it just looks like a big old necklace dangling down. Okay? Does that answer your question? Okay. Of course. Any other questions? He bites a lot?
He does not care about being corrected with the off command. He
Uh-huh.
doesn't care about us pinching his lip onto his teeth.
Mm-hmm.
He continues to bite.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only time we've seen him listen to what we've asked him to do.
Yeah.
So can we do that?
The leash and pinch for biting?
In the house?
Absolutely.
That's an in-the-house thing?
Yeah. Yeah, with supervision, right? I wouldn't let them wander around the house unsupervised. But even here, if you just want to have a 6-foot leash and be a pole, just have him like in the living room with you. So it's like he can wander around, lay down, do whatever. He just can't wander throughout the house. But if he goes to mouth and bite, that's when you go straight, slide down the line if you're not already down there, and pop out to the side. And when I slide down the leash, so whatever the leash length is, right? When I go to correct, I'm just sliding down the line to take the slack out, and I pop out to the side. And it's a pop release correction. But I'm gonna repeat the same thing, off, and I hold my ground. If he goes to jump up, mouth again, I'm gonna pop slightly harder than I did the last time while continuing to have that calm tone, off. Does that make sense? Okay. And so the touch correction, like I said, is a great tool, but that's the one thing a lot of people struggle with learning it initially, is all the moving parts to it being calm and believable. And so the leash and pinch is a great tool to have some success, but then we are dependent on it being on. So it's using either one, but either way we can start to disagree with the disrespect. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Yes, sir.
She begs at the table constantly, and the only way to get her to stop is to put her in a crate, and I don't like to crate her all the time. Is there a correction method for that? Like, we have a baby, so food drops, and she gets that, so I'm guessing that's her reinforcement.
Oh yeah, I mean it's all about the reward. She knows where it comes from, so she's all about it. So this question was like begging at the dinner table. Today we're going to be teaching the down command, the foundation to teach it. Once we have enough foundation, that would be an excellent opportunity to do a formal down. In the meantime, since we don't have the obedience there yet, crating is the go-to. So in those instances, in an instance where they're going to be begging, like I said, with a formal down, I would just down off to the side. And when we teach the finished product, is a formal down is, I say down, it means lay to your belly, don't sniff, don't crawl, don't whine, don't bark, lay there till I release you. Okay? We're going to start that today, and it's not going to look like that. Okay? It's just standing on the line today is the purpose of the exercise in teaching this obedience for today is to just feel the end of the line, feel the tension, and to lay down. Okay? So once we're there and the obedience is there, that'd be an excellent opportunity to down the dog, but it's going to take some work there. In the meantime, crating is a great option. But one thing I want to expand on is you mentioned you feel bad about putting her in a crate. Why?
Just that she's got to be there for, like, if the baby eats for like half an hour or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just rather have her out.
So you feel like the crate is jail?
Not really, but if she's in there a lot, and
Is a half hour a lot? Is it just?
no.
Okay.
She gets crated overnight, and that's not a problem or anything.
Uh-huh.
But if we're around, just
Yeah.
hang out with her.
Well, absolutely. If you're freely available, absolutely have her out on leash with you. If she's on leash and you're just had something in your hands and she's going for it, just correct and disagree, like off. But if you're trying to enjoy your meal and you're not one to like constantly get up and redirect or anything like that, the crate is an excellent tool to block when you're not there or available to disagree with behavior. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a new video that just came out about crate training.
Perfect. Yeah, crates are excellent tools when used correctly. They're not jail time, it's not timeout, it's not punishment. It's just a tool to block the dog when you're not there or available to correct and disagree. Does that make sense? Because if we're not, so even right there, he barked at you, pop it, tell him off. So next time, pop harder. But if he goes to pop, you're going to pop out to the side and say off. For that pop correction, for everyone, if this is at the end of the dog, I'm going to slide down the line. And so when I pop to disagree, it's out to the side like that, pop release. Okay? And so when I go to correct, if they don't respect it, I'm going to pop harder next time. But it's a pop release. It's not a yank. It's not a pop and hold. It's a pop release. That's my bite in the dog world. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, we need to get on to the down. We have 30 minutes.
Okay. So yeah, if there aren't,
Start doing it.
So there aren't any other questions. Then we'll go and start with the downs. For the purpose of
Start while you do it.
yeah,
Start the dogs.
yeah, I'll kind of narrate for you.
I don't want to interrupt you. Is that okay?
No, I'm gonna narrate for you like what you're doing. The whole point, like today's exercise, teaching the fundamentals of the down, the tension on the line, and putting the belly on the ground. It's not about staying down right now. They can sniff, they can crawl, they can whine. All I'm asking of the dog right now is to put their belly on the ground. Okay? So what we do is we give a loop, we give enough slack in the line. So when it's connected to the dog, it creates this little loop that we can then put our foot on. Okay? So when we create this loop, as you can see she's doing, I'm going to put like the ball of my foot on the line and hold firmly with my hand. And so when I go to lift my toe, I can gently pull up to take a little bit of slack out, just enough for the dog to feel it. And then we're going to give the dog time to process this. Okay? So sometimes they can just be frozen and stoic while they're figuring it out. Sometimes they can try to position and avoid to see they're processing, figuring out how to relieve this tension. Okay? And so it's taking it nice and slow to let them figure it out. But once she goes to lay down, we're going to lift our toe. So if there's any tension, it's released. So they learn as soon as the belly goes down, tension comes off. Does that make sense? So typically in this setting, the first time you do this is going to be the longest. There's going to be moments where at this point she's probably not going to take up any more tension in the line, and she's just waiting at this point. And down is a position of submission. We have some dogs, man's best friend, because we do all breeds and all temperaments. Some are really dominant, and they're normally you don't see a problem, but now you're asking them to do something they don't want to do, and down's a position of submission. You can have it to where now they want to bite your foot. And so it's a part of that process of trying to get the tension off because they don't want to comply. As you can see, she's just slowly waiting. Belly hits the ground. She's going to calmly use her foot to take the tension off. But notice she's not moving her body all over the place. She's not talking to the dog. She's just repeating down.
You want me to go right into break so you can explain that?
I figured, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So here she's going to go and release the dog. Now that he's laying down, I want to wait like 5-10 seconds and release on my terms. This isn't about staying down right now. So when we go to release, I only want the dog down for like a few seconds so I can release on my terms. I don't want the dog to get up whenever they wanted to. I want it to be on when I prompt them to. Does that make sense? So she's going to, in a moment, she's going to say break, standing straight up, arms are relaxed, nothing happens in the body. Just stand straight up, relax, break, and then she's going to step back and pat and invite the dog up. Okay? Everything we do when we say a command becomes a part of a command. So we want to start to incorporate break with just the word, but they don't understand it right now. So we say break, they're like, no expression, right? No idea. But then we go to invite and show, then they come up and stand. That's where we can calmly share affection there. As a reminder, break is just the finish of the down command. It means down is no longer the expectation. That does not mean pop to your feet. So if your dog doesn't get up when you say break, you would never pull the dog up out of a down. Okay? So when you go to say break, if they don't get up, you could pat and invite, and if they don't get up, you would start to walk, and now the expectation's to follow. So if they don't get up, they're going to self-correct, and then they'll quickly get up to follow you.
Did you always say to use your inside leg so you're not doing it like this?
Yeah, so in this instance too, with however the dog is positioned, we want to use the leg that's closest to the dog. Does that make sense? So we don't want to have the dog here and I'm trying to step on the line here. Okay, I'm going to use the closest foot. When we... So, since they're talking about feeding right now, but as for this tension, right? When we gradually increase the tension, initially I'm just going to pull out just enough for them to feel it and notice it's there. Let them process it. Let them move around. When they're not moving around, they're like standing still, or they dip their head to where there's no tension, I'm going to lift my toe to take up slightly more. But I want to gradually take up more tension, like every 30 seconds or so when you're doing this at home, because we can go too fast here and overwhelm the dog. Okay? So we'll make sure that we're going at a pace that they can understand so they can succeed and understand what you're wanting from them. Does that make sense? I can go ahead and start for your pup. He's already mastered it? Hi, bud. I can borrow your leash. Thank you. All right. So when starting this too, I'm going to rotate the pinch around just so the chain is on the bottom side. Yep. So here, loop the line just enough. And here too, I'm going to keep my feet together. And even with the jumping, this is a great way too, where he goes to jump up, he's self-correcting. But notice when he stands, there's no tension. Good. So from here now, I'm going to lift my toe, take up a little bit of tension, just enough for him to feel it. The what?
Not enjoying it.
Yeah, so notice how he feels it, and it's like he's processing it. And so this is where I'm going to give him time to work it out. He's going to move around. That doesn't take off tension. Off. Down. So here I just take up a little bit more. And here I'm going to move my leg just to block and prevent him from getting tangled up in between my legs. Down. So you can hear how he's like tilting his head. It's protest. He's processing it, trying to figure it out, how to take it off. I'm going to lift my toe, take up a little bit more.
Once the dog lays down, if they are on their chest, but their head is up, it's important to pick up your toe just so it will relieve a little bit. The whole point is there's tension, there's pressure. The minute they're down, there's zero pressure. They are allowed to pick up their head.
No tension.
So when they pick up their head, if there's tension, you want to lift
After a
up your
few
toe,
seconds, because I want to release on my terms.
Break.
Break. Calm, praise. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Who would you say is going to be spending the most time with the dog, like handling?
Try.
Off. So you're in here. If he goes to bark, I'm going to correct. Off. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hand this to you. Okay. Go ahead and just keep your feet together so if he were to go try to move and tangle around you, he can't get in between.
Down.
Well, even that, I'm not super concerned about the little debris and stuff as well. Because even then, I'm just going to take up a little bit more tension, but I want him more concerned with this boundary. But if I'm trying to, every time he moves a certain way or gets a little debris, I'm not going to interrupt this by trying to get to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, he just has diarrhea really bad.
I see. Okay.
I'm not getting her stuff in
Yeah.
Down.
And then here we're just going to wait right now. Don't take up any more. Good. So as soon as he lays down, lift your toe so there's no tension.
That looks like protesting still.
It is protest. So step on the line again. Don't worry about the leg part. Go ahead and take up more. Yep. So go and lift your toe, and if you need to rotate a little your foot so you don't have to worry about slipping out front.
It's like, maybe if I pretend this isn't happening. Maybe if I just look away.
Then we're just going to wait. Go ahead and take up a little bit more. Down. Go ahead and relax the line, lift your toe. Okay, now go ahead and say break and step back.
Break.
Nope, there you go.
Break.
Okay, calm praise. So right there, that's why I knew he was gonna pop back up again, right? And so I was looking for an opportunity where we could release on our terms before he got up. I'm not worried about him flopping over right now because it's processing it and figuring it out.
Okay.
Once he lays down, it's teaching him this whole process. But as he develops more foundation, and we do this with repetition, we'll start to disagree with that. Okay. Good. All right. So if you want, we can go ahead and we'll do it again. So if you can go over with him slightly. Good. And then we're just gonna wait. Yeah. So don't take up any more. We're just gonna wait it out right now. And then just keep the legs together so he can't do that. Whipping his head around and being in between. Good. Mental battles. And as you do this with repetition, this will all come quicker because he's going to be learning each time. Nothing will work except laying down to take the pressure off.
Break. Break.
So just remember there. So I'm glad you released and you waited and all that. But when you go to move, before you move your body, break, then pat and invite.
Okay.
Because the moment there, it was like break, right? So as we do this, everything we do with our body when we say a command becomes a part of the command. So what we're going to develop this into is down where you're at, and you can walk away from them. So if we step away and say break, and that becomes a part of the command, now we're trying to down them, and we step away, they're going to start to get up as soon as we step away. Does that make sense? And so it's just keeping in mind everything we do. Same with when we start the down. Stand straight up, arms relaxed, down, and same with the release. But then the direction and invitation for break is after we say it. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Because if you want, you can go ahead and you can start over and step on the line. I just want you to be aware too, when you go to set up and position, there's a lot of tension, and that's what steering is. So it's making sure there's slack in the line. Invite and to direct the dog, or move your body to get them where you want them to be, and then start your down. Okay. So as a reminder, while we're doing this, while we're standing on the lines, we want to make sure that we're not having conversation. The only word we're saying is down. Every like 30 seconds or so, just start saying down. And so as we do more of this, they're going to start to associate the word and the command with what we're doing. Okay? But I wouldn't be locking eyes, having conversation, talking to the dog, and I stand straight up. I'm not going to be bending down, be like down. They can hear me from up here, right? So I don't have to go down here. It's for them to hear me, right? So I stand straight up while I'm doing it. And you'll notice as we're doing this with repetition, it's coming quicker, okay? So normally the first few times, it's that mental battle while they're figuring out this process. So the homework for building on this when you're at home. So you can do this 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day if you want, depending on your availability, your free time. But you can't do it too much. It's all calm. When building on this, once they're starting to get the concepts, and then right when I step on it, they immediately lay down, that's where I'm going to start to build on duration and distance. Okay? So if I'm downing and I step on the line, they immediately lay down. Instead of waiting like 5-10 seconds for a release, I'm going to go for a minute now. Okay? Go for a minute, release, calm, praise, go do it again. Go for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, right? Building on up to, say once you're at like 10 minutes where they're just laying there and they're not getting back up, that's where I'll go and take a step away. So what it'll look like, make sure you're not messing with the mic. So say I'm downing my dog, I'm stepping on the line, they're laying down, I lift my toes so there's no tension. They've been laying here for about 10 minutes. Now I'm going to give enough slack. I'm going to down, and I just step about a foot out. And your dog is immediately going to get up probably, unless they're asleep. And so when they pop up, you're going to say nothing, go calmly step in, make tension again, then say down. And you're going to wait. And then they're going to lay down, no tension, down, step back out to a foot. Okay? Say now that that foot's going well, they're waiting 5 minutes, they don't get up, down, I can go back out again. And even once I'm at this point where I'm kind of running out of leash, that's where I'll just take my foot off, down, and I could be up to 6 feet away, down, and if they get up, I say nothing, calmly go in, step on the line, make tension, down, wait for them to go back down, okay? So they're simply learning.
Tia, bring that puppy all the way up here, please.
So that was,
They're going by it.
yeah. And in a moment like that too, with something going on, say if most of the time, I think most of you are probably going to be practicing this at home. However, if you're doing it in a setting like this, if that was to startle her, that dolly going by, I would not be trying to make her down right there. I would reposition and get away from it, okay? Then reset. Okay? But as we're building on this duration and distance, right, as we're downing, they're simply just going to learn, like when I make tension, that means put your belly on the ground. Then they're going to learn down is the expectation, even when I'm a foot away, even when I'm 2 feet away, so on and so forth, right? Building on, they're just learning. Every time they make a mistake is an opportunity for them to learn, okay? So the goal, like the homework, are we bringing them back for another lesson to make it formal? Okay. So for the next lesson, what everybody needs to be at a benchmark of doing the homework, are they ready for the next lesson where we're going to show you how to make it formal, is we want to be at least 6 feet away for an hour. Okay? And so there's no substitute for time and repetition. Doing the homework, I recommend doing this at least twice a day and building on it. So by the time they're at this next lesson, we're 6 feet away for an hour. They don't have to be laying down for the entire hour, but if they get up 2-3 times, it's not a big deal. But we want 6 feet away for an hour duration. Does that make sense? So if they're at that benchmark by the time you come in, they should have enough foundation where we can show you how to then make it formal. That's where we're going to start to bring an actual correction for down. So then we're going to start to teach them to down on command to avoid the correction and to stay down to avoid the correction. Does that make sense? Are there any questions on that? One thing to keep in mind too is the supervision and setting of these dogs, because they put everything in their mouth and them eating something and getting a potential blockage. And so we just had a puppy dropped off, I think, what, 2 days ago?
Yeah, it's a battle buddy puppy.
Yeah, battle buddy dog just got dropped off and he pooped like I don't know how long, at least a foot of like a 1 inch wide thick leash. So very glad that that did not get wadded up and stuck in his GI tract, because that can either kill him or be a very expensive surgery. And so it's just please being aware of what they can get in their mouth, what they can ingest, and either picking it up or having that supervision where it's not going to happen. Okay? Because unfortunately, with those mistakes, it's the dogs that pay the price. Just like that dog we were talking about greeting another dog in Home Depot. It was the owner's mistake, but the dog paid the price for it. So I'm trusting in his backup camera right now. Are there anything else you wanted me to add on that, or? Okay. Huh?
Scavenging for sticks and pine cones, like anything he can find on the walk.
Yeah.
So should now we be correcting for that?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yep. So now, as we're starting to walk with these pinch collars, if on leash, so we still have a looser line, and even then, if he jumped up, you could pop him for that.
Okay.
To disagree. But when walking, if they're just constantly like hunting on the ground for objects to pick up in their mouth, I'd be like off or leave it and pop to disagree. If they get it in their mouth, you can try to pop, but if they don't immediately spit it out, I'd curl the lips to get it out of their mouth. Because with the pop right now, they might not be registering it to spit it out, but if they go for it, you can absolutely pop to disagree. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that make sense for everyone else if you're dealing with that?